Okay, we're going to go ahead and get this call started. Hello, everyone. And our apologies for shifting this on over to Zoom instead of on YouTube. We're actually going to dive into a few of the energies that are happening lately and maybe why my YouTube didn't work, right? But no, we definitely wanted to host this regardless. And obviously it's recording. We will share it out on our various platforms, but please feel free to share out this Zoom link with any friends, family, or people that you feel called to share this with. This is an absolutely free call, open to anyone and everyone that has interest inside of this beautiful space that is opening up a whole new world for me personally. It being crypto, the world of cryptocurrencies, as you guys can see, I'm obsessed all the time, but bringing in the side of astrology to it. So for those that don't know me, my name's Corinne Florence. I now for 2 years have really, I like to call myself a crypto addict. I love this space. I'm obsessed with it, but more so I'm very obsessed and passionate about what it's bringing to the world, what it's bringing to, I believe, already our present, but even more so our future and what we're shifting towards, which really excites me because I think that it's bringing so many benefits to all of us on this earth. So I've been into that for 2 years. And then personally, I had heard of astrology, and I think most people do, right? You're born on a day, on a month of a specific year, and all of a sudden you're told, you are a Virgo, you are a Scorpio. People told me that I was a Leo from the moment I was born. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. I have red hair. I kind of look like a lion. My personality definitely seems to be attached to a lion. But then I thought, that's it. That's all there is to it. And why would everybody be born, or everybody that's born on the same day as me surely isn't the exact same person, right? So astrology seems like something that's kind of fun, but how much truth is there actually to it? Or how much does it actually affect us and our everyday lives, our lives in general? And bringing it to this, how could it potentially affect crypto or financial markets in general, correct? And I think that's what a lot of people think. And they have this idea of astrology just being that horoscope thing that you read on the newspaper, now on Instagram, that it's going to tell you what your day is going to be like. And I always felt like there was some sort of truth to it, but I never really dove into it. Then I started seeing one of my mentors inside of the crypto space talk about, oh, Mercury retrograde's coming, so these things might happen in crypto. And I'm like, Mercury, the planet? Like, what do you mean by that? How would that affect crypto, right? And that kind of triggered me to start searching, start looking a little bit more into it to see how it would affect the crypto markets. And I started diving in and seeing things about the moon. Okay. And the moon, then we hear, that there are higher rates in the emergency rooms at hospitals when there is a full moon. We see that our tides, high tide, low tide, is affected by the moon. So even there, I'm like, okay, so if a moon can go and affect a whole body of water, and we are made up of 70 to 80% water, maybe then that affects us somehow too. And that's kind of like how things just triggered for me. And I started diving in. And then along my journey, I've met some amazing women and men that are also really aligned with this, have spent much more time than me as well in studying this, learning this, and applying it not only to life, to world events, but also inside of the financial markets. So I'm diving in, I'm learning more and more. I'm so passionate about this now because I feel like it's really something, and I'm one of those people that I really like those things that are questionable, because I feel like those things that people straight away are like, oh, no, that's BS. I'm like, is it though? Like, I really like to question things. And here is something that I feel like has kind of been like hidden and put aside. And I'm like that curious person that's like, let's go and uncover this and figure out what's underneath. So I'm excited to bring to you all this call together with Shelby and Kylie, which you will all get to know in just a second, to just start sharing the information that we're learning, that we're seeing. You know, the three of us were jumping on calls together, just Zooming with the girls, sitting here, sharing charts, talking about moons and planets. And we were like, we're really sharing some incredible information while we're here talking about this. So why not just open it up to whoever else wants to learn about it? And hopefully, you know, be able to build a community of people that share this same interest so that we can all learn and grow together and get this value. So we're going to dive into a lot of different things together. But first and foremost, I want to have you all hear from the other girls as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Shelby. Shelby, I am just really getting to know her. She's such a light, this woman. You can see that she really is passionate about this space. She's an incredible trader, and I have seen the results that she's already smashed and about to smash. I'm so excited for you, Shelby. Congrats, because you deserve it. You're so hardworking and so giving and sharing to everybody else as well. So everybody that's here, please welcome Shelby. And Shelby, over to you. Oh, unmute. There we go.
There we go. Yay. Oh, thank you so much, Corinne. I'm so grateful for you and all that you've shared. And honestly, your journey is how everyone sees crypto, or excuse me, astrology when they first start, right? They kind of are like, well, what is this? And why is this here? And why should I even look at it? So I'm just extremely grateful for you sharing that, because I think it's something that comes up a lot in this topic, and something I wanted to talk on a little bit. But first, I want to introduce myself and what this whole process has been for me, you know, why I even started in astrology. So I'm 28, I live in San Francisco, and I actually have a background in biology. And then I went into my master's. I got my master's in biomedical sciences and went the whole route of going into research, sleep research, meditation research, and you know, meeting with clients, doing NLP work with clients, psychedelic integration work. And so I've really met with a lot of people, and I understand how a lot of their emotions people are not very connected to. We're not taught how to be connected to our emotions as humans, unfortunately, right? We grow up in a society and in a system where when you feel happy, right, you're happy, right? But when you're sad or depressed, you go and maybe you don't know how to express it, or you don't know how to sit with it. And so part of what I love to do is help people understand how those emotions are just a normal part of the human experience, and how we can take those emotions as indicators that there's something there for us to learn, right? And so our emotions actually are kind of pulled at and triggered by all of the planets that are constantly moving around us. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen like a real visual of how the planets move around the earth, but it is so beautiful. I encourage you to look it up on YouTube, and you'll see that the earth is spinning around the sun, right? And the sun has all of these other outer planets that are moving around it. And if you think about, you know, all of us humans on the earth, we're made up of, you know, all these cells, right? And then you zoom in a little bit further, and those cells are made up of atoms, elements, right? Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen. You zoom in even further to those elements, and it's really interesting. You start getting into quarks and all this like little energy that's moving around and shifting, right? And it's shifting and moving always, right? We're always evolving, we're always changing, we're taking in food. That energy is nourishing us so we can keep growing and evolving. And these planets, they actually emit energy as well. They're made up of the same chemicals and the same elements that we are made of. And that blew my mind. I actually started diving into astrology when I was about 22. I grew up in Michigan, and there's a bookstore there called Mayflower Bookstore. And the guy who actually owns this bookstore, he what's the word for Robert? He's like he's not of this earth. Like he is just so out there, and his mind is so expanded, and he's such a funny, goofy type of guy. And I remember going to this bookstore when I was younger, and he introduced me to astrology. He was like, let's look at your chart. I want to show you, what your chart is. And he just read me like a book, and I'm like, I need to know more. Give me a book. I need a book from you. And so he gave me this giant book called The Only Astrological Book You'll Ever Need. I think it's by Marianne Woolfolk or something. Kylie, you can correct me on that or look it up. But that book have used since I was 22 to do research on this. And then I started having people come in through YouTube, different astrologers that I listen to every single day when they put out new videos. And it's just really helped me understand how these planets, they're not just there, right? They're there for a reason, and they actually are emitting frequencies. There's scientists, astronomers that actually look into the science behind this, and they're uncovering more and more and more every single year on how these planets are working. So as more and more people come to this space and they say, well, how could this happen? How could this impact our bodies? They're skeptical, right? I think it's actually really important to be skeptical when you first start on this journey of learning astrology, because it's good. It's good to question things. It's good to not just take something as truth. So we encourage you guys to do that as we share today. Have that sense of skepticism, but be open, because if you're someone who, like me, really is excited about the science of this and how this impacts the human body and the human emotions, I encourage you to look into it. I encourage you to look into studies. They see that there's x-rays coming from planets like Uranus, and that it's impacting, the sun's rays that come onto our earth, and that goes into our skin, into our bodies. It impacts our cellular structure and also our body's processes. So it's really, really fascinating. I encourage you to keep your mind open, jot down questions as you're moving through, because we are going to go into some really, really amazing stuff on how these planets are even going to impact us the rest of this year, and how that's also playing into the markets, the decisions of leaders in our world, real estate, crypto, all of these structures and systems that are at play that are starting to kind of feel a little shaky right now. I don't know if you guys feel that, but they're starting to feel a little shaky. So we're going to talk about, what's all happening, how the planets are even going to impact that, and who better to pass it off to than Kylie, because Kylie is the real astrologer here, right? Karina and I are like blown away by how much Kylie knows in this field. And who better than to share all of the details than our own astrologer, Kylie. So Kylie, I'm going to pass it off to you. I'm so grateful for you and all that you've taught me. And if you guys are not taking notes or paying attention right now, like, get your pen out, get your paper out, because she's about to blow your mind with all the information that she knows about astrology. So I'll pass it off to you, girl.
Can I say one thing before Kylie blows all of our minds? Okay. Kylie's like, let me at them. I want to let everybody know. Yeah, she's so incredible. But I just thought, especially if there's like a brand new person here, you could be thinking, okay, cool. Energies, the planets, the bodies. Why does that have anything to do with crypto? I just want to show one quick little link in case it like clicks a light bulb in somebody's head, as it did for me. The cheat sheet to crypto, to the financial space, to the financial markets is emotions. Yes. So just really quickly, if you don't know this yet, if you do not know this, that we call the emotional cycle, which is essentially what we see happen inside of the markets over and over and over again.
I can't see it.
You can't see it?
No, it's not up on your screen yet.
Oh, let me try again.
Oh, we see your desktop. Did you click share?
Oh,
did you share the right window?
There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. If you have not seen this, check this out. But essentially, I want you to just think the 99% or 95% of people don't know that emotions are what control the markets, or what we see rather. The markets are a representation of human emotions that happen over and over and over again. So if human emotions are reflected inside of the markets, astrology, the planets, our energies that go and affect our emotions, that's how the two link up. Just in case we needed to clarify that. But Kylie, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please, over to you. We're so excited to learn from you.
No, thank you. Thank you. First of all, I am ridiculously blown away by both of you. And you have built this intro up so much. I'm like, ah. So let me just say, I am so grateful to be here and to share what I know. I am no expert by any means, but I definitely have been studying with a deep passion this subject, and it is a constant study. So I consider myself a student of astrology and a student of the markets as well. And I'm blown away by both of these women for both of their expertise in these crisscrossing areas. I want to give it back to Shelby just briefly to say that for anyone who doesn't know Shelby, in true Scorpio nature, this woman is a catalyst that will cause you to think deeper, to think more, think in a different way, look at the things that you didn't want to look at, look under the rug and dig a little bit deeper to make the connections that are lying deep down in the roots that ultimately bear the good fruit, right? So Shelby, you're incredible. I love what you do. I'm so grateful that you're here and that you're such a servant heart to this community and to myself and to all the people that you love, which is like the whole world, truly. I love you so much. Anyways, okay, my name is Kylie and I am, as they said, an intuitive astrologer and a student of the markets. I'm 27 years old. I'm here in St. Louis, Missouri. I will say I studied nutrition and exercise physiology in school. I was very largely in love with just learning about the body and all the connections. I always loved to observe patterns and ask a lot of questions, which is what we're going to be doing a lot of here and what we're asking you guys to do as well. And really for me, I was never one to be like super into astrology, either from an early age. All I can say is that I understood what we know as sun sign astrology, which is what Corinne was speaking to earlier. And that is actually a variation of astrology that was adopted in the West not too long ago. But astrology itself actually dates back as far as Mesopotamia, thousands of years ago with the first humans as far as we know. And so it's always been in our nature to look at the stars, and it's always been, I like to say, intuitively in our nature to look up and to see them as a map and to essentially observe them and correlate patterns and events that are going on with their movements, which is what astrology is. To me, I like to look at it as an observational science after thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So I really, really love it. And the way that it came to me was actually, it's a trippy story, but I sum it up to say that it was kind of like a intuitive remembering. And I think that we all really can take a deep breath and look up at the stars every now and then, and we will feel that tingle of something greater that we know is beyond just our perspective here. And so that happened about 3 years ago, this remembering within me, and it has been an incredible journey of remembering ever since. And I'm happy to be here and to be sharing the knowledge with these ladies. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'll say we're gonna just look briefly at a couple of examples of what it feels and looks like. Sorry for the chaos. To actually look at a chart. And so maybe a thumbs up. I don't know if I can see, but is everyone able to see this?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I love that Corinne actually segued with that visual of the emotions, and Shelby pointed out emotions a lot as well. It's a common ping word we're hearing right now, and I'm going to bring it up again because to me, astrology is the language of energy. And when I hear emotions, I hear energy in motion, and that is what everything is. It is all energy. And so as we know, you're all the way down to the smallest pieces of your cells. It's energy vibrating and moving and evolving. And it's the same energy that makes up the planets that are moving and evolving. And it's our energy that makes up our experience here, which is the markets and everything that we do. And so this here is a screenshot of astrology chart. This is what it would look like if you were to take like a screenshot of the sky at any given point in a certain location at a certain time. And it's symbolized with these different caricatures. And so what I'm showing you guys here is actually a screenshot of August 6th, today's chart, the current chart. And what we're going to kind of just focus on for this call is to briefly introduce astrology and what it's like to actually use this tool to analyze the energy and analyze the markets. And for this chart, it's giving us an idea of what's going on right now. And so we can work with the current energy that is being minted into reality and be able to know how that might pull emotions, right? Which means how it might pull the market's movements. But I want to give you another example of how financial astrology could be practically applied. And this is another screenshot of a chart. This one is Bitcoin's chart. And so instead of taking a screenshot of the sky that's currently being minted into reality, right, we're looking at the moment when Bitcoin itself was minted into reality. And this is what the sky looked like. And so we could also see this as Bitcoin's natal chart. And this is another way, a little bit more advanced. So we're not going to really dive into this way too much today, but another way to apply financial astrology is by actually pulling up the natal charts of stocks, of coins, of leaders and people, of actual countries, and being able to sense the energy that they were minted with and how the current energy might be correlating with it, right? So to give you a visual of that, I actually have what's called Bitcoin's transit chart. So now instead of one circle, you see two. And this would be the way to look at, for example, an entity like Bitcoin's chart and see how the current reality might be pulling on in a beneficial way or a challenging way that particular entity. And each of us, for any of you who are even vaguely familiar with astrology, have our own natal charts, and we're able to also feel how we feel different on any given day. And we might be going through certain challenges for certain periods of time. And maybe you have an astrologer like myself who you feel like just looked into a crystal ball because they said things to you that you'd be like, how did you know that that happened around that time, or that I was struggling with those themes? And this is how, because the stars really are the stars and the planets, everything going on is all connected, as Shelby was highlighting. And so when we have one thing happening inside of ourselves at a micro level, we know that that domino effect is going to eventually show up within our entire body somehow. And also when something happens to an individual, we know that it affects the micro community. And when something happens to a micro community, we know it's affecting the global community. This expansion of connection goes on and on and on and on throughout the galaxies. And so even though it seems so far away, we are deeply, deeply, deeply connected to these energies. And when they come back around and pass over the blueprint that we were minted with, they pull on us in unique ways. And this is how astrologers are able to read predictive things like that. And you can take that same energy into, as I'm showing you here, entities like Bitcoin, and read in predictive ways like that. I just went ahead and pulled up the current chart again, and I'm just going to bring it back for this intro a little bit. As I said, that was one example of how you can use financial astrology. But for today, we're going to focus mostly on just looking at the current energy, the planets and how they're moving right now and how they've been moving throughout this year, and just see some correlating events and how they cross over and how you can begin to pick up on these patterns and work with it. So for example, I know that Corinne had pointed out the moon and how she began using the moon to analyze charts. And the moon is represented in astrology as, in financial astrology particularly, it's represented as the public's image and as the public's feelings and emotions that are reflected, because the moon reflects the sun's light. So it reflects those feelings and emotions. And so this is why oftentimes when we have really, really strong moon energy, like new moons and full moons, we often have our energies and emotions so heightened and our feelings so heightened. And it often causes those patterns that we see, which really, I should probably pull up the actual patterns, huh? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
That would be cool to see on the chart.
So let's just, this is one that's up right now, and it doesn't really matter what we're looking at. I just want to show you guys the pattern. So I'm looking at a day chart here, day chart with the moon phases layered over on trading view. So just to give you this added visual of how one planet like the moon can so strongly lay out patterns like this. And I'm really focusing on the moon because it is the planet that really strongly pulls on our feelings and our emotions. And as Corinne said, trading and investing and the markets are very emotional. And so this energy really, really pulls on price action and how people are feeling that day or that week. So we see our new moons up here, which often cause peaks, and then big sell-offs that often get caught for local bottoms around the full moons. And this is just one example. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. But also another one that I wanted to just introduce to you guys would be Mercury, and how Corinne pointed out that we're having technical difficulties right now.
Right.
And we're having some technical difficulties right now. And also one of Corinne's mentors in the markets had pointed out Mercury retrogrades and how those patterns show up on charts as well. And so just an example to bridge that for you guys too, Mercury is symbolized as the planet that rules over trading, communication, mass media. Why? Because Mercury is ruled by energy like Gemini and Virgo. It rules over technical analysis. It rules over putting together systems and structures and really analyzing things. So these things, it also rules over information. So these things like communication, sharing information, and the actual act of trading itself is very mercurial. And when Mercury goes into retrograde, then the energy is kind of being inverted. So we oftentimes see in the emotional markets either a stagnant period or a spike that happens sometimes to the bearish side when the energy goes inverted, right? And people kind of pull their energy from out back in. And so these are patterns that you guys can start to just play with and see how they show up on the different charts that you're analyzing. But I'm gonna go ahead and pass it back because we do want to chat, like we said, about the actual world events going on for 2022, big themes, big headlines. And we've got some real strong, powerful outer planets that I'll be able to bridge the gap with regarding those themes. So I'll pass it back over to Corinne to kick off that part.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's lots of love coming through in the chat, some questions as well. And I'm going to ask you a question as well, Kylie, just so maybe we can help people get their heads around some of this a little bit more, because I'm sure that many of you, whether here live with us or watching the recording, are like, okay, but like, this is so much of, like, we're used to seeing like price charts. And now we're seeing like a whole new chart, and I'm seeing and learning that it's like a whole new type of chart to learn, which is exciting though, right? So one quick thing to answer a question in the chat, and I can share my screen real quick, just about the moon phases. So I've pulled up a completely just fresh, clean chart. Okay. For an example, we're looking at Bitcoin. You guys can see my screen, right? This time. Okay, perfect. I just want to show you. So you go into indicators and you can search up moon phases. And it's going to be this first one here. And it will go and put all of the past moons that have occurred, the full moons and the new moons. So that's what Kylie put up on her chart.
Yeah, as well as the waxing and the waning phase, like the time in between the new moon and full moon, which really shows a lot of the price action. So it's beautiful.
Isn't it? It gives me chills. The first time I saw it, I was like, no, that's a coincidence. And then it just happens all the time. And Kylie, my question to you to maybe break down just a tiny bit more. So you opened up, say, for example, the Bitcoin chart, or even right now we see where the planets are and all of that. So what does the planets then have to do with Leo, Scorpio, and all of that? And maybe can you just show like on the chart what they mean and what's represented where?
Yeah, let me go ahead and reshare. And I'll continue to use Bitcoin's chart for this. Okay. So like, for example, in financial astrology, the sun would represent, I mean, it represents all the time identity. It's very egoic and personal astrology. It's oftentimes how we share and give our energy. And so it looks more like the ego in that sense. It's kind of the expression of I am this. But in financial astrology, we would just correlate that to being more of the actual identity of the entity and the vitality of it as well, right? Because the sun is a life giver, it gives life. Otherwise, none of us would be here. And so we can look at that correlation with the sun symbolism as well. It represents vitality and identity is what we'll say for financial astrology. So for example, this is Bitcoin's chart. Bitcoin technically is a Capricorn. That's beautiful energy for what Bitcoin's trying to do. Why? Because Capricorn rules over longevity, structure, dependability. It is the energy that will get the job done. And so Bitcoin's sun being in Capricorn would give a lot of confidence of this entity to go out there and be something that builds structure for whatever purpose it's trying to do, right? And we can see how Bitcoin was the first and most successful coin to come out of the gates with cryptocurrencies. So that might be a testimony to its Capricorn sun. Another example, let's go ahead and look at Bitcoin's North Node. And this would be a good introduction to the North Node energy anyways, because we're going to talk a lot about the current North Node energy and how the themes have been very in our face. We just don't even know it. Most of us don't even realize that that is what the map of the sky has been saying. But for example, Bitcoin is an Aquarius North Node. The North Node symbolizes, just to keep it short, I like to consider it as your North Star energy. So it's the energy that you are needing to develop and progress towards in order to feel that deep soul satisfaction. It's the energy that you oftentimes feel a bit imbalanced with and need to balance that out, meaning that you've got to work on this one and tilt the scale that way because you had a little bit more to bring from the South Node, which is its opposite. So we've got Aquarius North Node. So North Node being the North Star, the compass that Bitcoin wants to evolve towards, to put it in simple terms. And Aquarius representing global community, global outreach, galactic, technology, innovation. Okay, this is all Aquarius themes. And also it oftentimes falls in the realm of humanitarianism because they do want to see that global connection and what's best for the greater good, not just the self. And so Bitcoin, when we think about Bitcoin's purpose and why it was created, I think we can all agree that that was very much at the forefront of what Bitcoin was setting out to want to do, to create this global currency, to break down the barriers that are at local levels and to allow us to have more access and more opportunity that's not so centralized, right? So they were really taking that centralized currency and wanting to decentralize it and wanting to create more access and opportunity for the people, which is all Aquarius energy. And we can see the North Node is a challenge. It is usually a lifelong challenge. It's a mission that you are working towards, which, Corinne, I hope it's not too much of an overshare, but I do love that you are the DCX queen and you are the Bitcoin queen and you are an Aquarius North Node. So you guys line right up with each other in your missions. And that's another little sidebar of how you can use astrology and financial astrology as well. I have really great success on some charts, and it's because they work well with my chart. And I know that. So I look at the entity and I see that, oh, that entity has a lot of good aspects when it's layered over me. So there's probably money there for me. You know what I mean? So this is ways to astrology, but
sorry to interrupt. Doesn't Uranus impact, isn't Uranus connected with Aquarius? And we have a lot of Uranus.
Yep, it's the ruling planet for it. Yep. And here's the fun thing about that is actually Aquarius is ruled by both Saturn and Uranus. And Saturn in Capricorn energy is very traditional, and it's the traditional structures that we know work that are dependable. These are big words for Capricorn and big words for Saturn. But once Saturn shifts into the Aquarius energy, which comes right after Capricorn, because this entire thing is a progression. Again, even the zodiac wheel is entirely connected. Nothing is not connected. So as Capricorn shifts into Aquarius energy, Saturn then says, oh, now I have the buzz of Uranus here and I want something different. I want to shake this whole thing up. I want to try something entirely different and rebuild for the greater good, for more than just providing for my family. Now I want to go outreach to the entire community and connect more. And so this is very Aquarius energy. So it really does take that original traditional structure, shakes it up, breaks it down, and wants to rebuild for something new and better. And so we can see, again, going back to Bitcoin and that North Node energy in Aquarius, how on point that is for what Bitcoin does. I don't think I have to explain that too much more, but I will point out its opposite, which is the South Node, and the fact that since Bitcoin is an Aquarius North Node, it comes with Leo energy. So Leo South Node means popularity, means spotlight, means fame and regal nature. So oftentimes king and queen, energy, leadership. And the fact that Bitcoin is also an Aquarius or a Leo rising and a Leo South Node, and it happens to be the coin that got the most popularity, the most fame, and the most spotlight, correct? So these are all just ways. I know, Corinne, again, I know we could talk about this forever. So I hope that this kind of does start to explain how you can even just look at an entity's natal chart and begin to talk a little bit about how it might behave and if it's a good bet or not,
Yeah, no, and thank you for answering that question and starting to break that down so everybody can at least start to see that, we're not just looking at the financial charts and the moon going up and down, et cetera, et cetera. We're actually going then and diving into Bitcoin. And in financial astrology, we learned that the birthday, right? We all have a birthday, but the birthday of, say, Bitcoin in this case is the time that it had its first transaction. So that's going to have a different, or everything that's happening right now is going to have a different effect on Bitcoin versus, say, Ethereum, which has a different birth date from its first transaction. So you can then start to dive in from that, and it opens up a whole world. So fam, for everybody that's watching, we could literally sit here for like multiple hours to dive into this, but let's dive into today's topic that we did want to go over, and kind of like what's already happened this year with some really important events versus what's to come. So Shelby or Kylie, would you like to start off with that? Maybe we can share a chart and go from there.
I think the biggest thing this year that everyone needs to know about is that the United States is in its Pluto return year, which means Pluto moves in big cycles of 246, 250 years. So every 250 years, Pluto moves into essentially it goes through its new cycle, right? And so if you look at just the United States and how long we've actually been around, it was formed July 4th, 1776 was the official date where the Declaration of Independence was signed. And if you look at that time period and why we even signed that document and what was happening in our world, just in the United States alone, there was a lot of things going on. There was slavery, there was social issues, there was like unrest between people still. And I think what we need to think about is what's happened from then until now. What systems have been put in place that are no longer working? And it just brings to light the fact that every single country has to go through this cycle with Pluto. And Pluto comes through and has this energy of like destruction and revolution, and kind of in a way like bringing skeletons out of the closet that you don't want to look at, but you need to because you pushed them back there and you don't want to keep them hidden anymore. So there's a lot of things that are coming out. It almost seems like the past couple of weeks, every week there's just something new, something new, something new. And what I think is so important about learning this information is not to be scared of anything like this happening, but to work with the energy and understand what's coming up potentially before it actually happens, so that you can keep your emotions in check, right? So that you don't have to be controlled by fear, so that you can say, okay, this is a part of the natural evolution of how things are working in our world. And I can sit with this and see this happen and choose love, choose to focus on something else, choose to do what I can to make my life better and my family's life better, so that I don't have to bring my energy down, my vibration down. And it allows you to detach from what's happening in the world in a way that you don't have to let all of these emotions around you come in and take over your own system. And I think that's the most important thing to do right now, is to find that sense of inner peace, right? It's never easy to hear a lot of the things that are going on in the world. It's never fun to hear a lot of the things that are happening right now. But that being said, they are happening, right? And so when you can learn to work with this energy and understand how it's going to come in the future, then it allows you to remain grounded, remain calm, remain understanding of the higher story and storyline and everything that's going on that we honestly have no control over. But we do have control over our own inner world. We do have control over how we choose to respond to it. And Kylie, I want to pass it off to you, because the US Pluto return is just one aspect of, I think, one event that's kind of sparked off so many different things, because the US dollar is the reserve currency. We're starting to see other countries like China, Russia come together and talk about creating a new world reserve currency. That would be huge for the United States if that happened, of a lot of things playing out and changing. So I wanted to pass it off to you to talk about that, and then also the eclipse season we have coming up at the end of this year. And then we have a couple of like 5 planets in retrograde in September. And that's a huge, 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 huge moment. So I know you will. Yeah, it's going to be an intense one.
No, the Pluto is a perfect place to start, and I'll bridge it for you guys as traders, as students of the market, why this is something to pay attention to, aside from just how Shelby covered the way that it impacts our life on a greater scale, but also dialing it into even just this skill and what you guys do day to day. You have to recognize that Pluto is like the financial powerhouse of it represents power. It represents like who actually has power, in the charts. And so Pluto is currently happening in Capricorn in the United States second house. Okay. And this is super important to point out, because we do see the planet of power in Capricorn, in traditional structures, okay, in traditional banking, in traditional government structures. This is all Capricorn and the planet of power that gets the power. And it's in the United States second house. So let's put that puzzle piece together. The US dollar and how it always held power, and it used to be on that gold standard, right? And then as Shelby just pointed out, after 250 years, this empire is getting, it's like final reign with the return of Pluto. And so since this is happening in the United States second house, the house that represents banking, money, okay, we are going to see quite literally a shift of power from Pluto into Aquarius in, I think, March of 2023. Don't quote me correctly or exactly on that, but it's 2023 for sure. And we're going to see a shift in power, Pluto, over to Aquarius. So moving from traditional structure, traditional banking structure, traditional government structure, moving from the United States second house of money and the US dollar into Aquarius, which is going to say, hey, let's go give the power to innovative things, tech driven things. Let's literally crypto. Yeah, like hello. It literally just screams crypto.
Hello.
I we can't ignore that. It screams the fact that the power is shifting to cryptocurrencies, to NFTs, to Web 3, 4, 5, 17, whatever you want to call it. The power is shifting to these sectors. The power is shifting to those powers that be that hold social media. Hello, Meta, and all of Meta's changes. Hello, censorship increases with all the social media, because Pluto also rules over that Scorpio energy of hidden things or things that are going to come out of the closet. And with these people in power that have social media platforms like Elon Musk buying out Twitter, or not really fully going through with it, but that energy, Meta transitioning from Facebook to Meta, and then we've got all the increase in censorship on Instagram and just all the things. We can see them exercising their power, okay, and their ability to begin controlling. And we're going to see a reign of that for, I think it's like 40 years or something, where Pluto's going to be in Aquarius. So it's really going to kick off a theme, okay? But as a trader, a way to look at this is, yes, pay attention to how the US is a little faulty right now. Pay attention to how the US dollar and your original banking systems are not very trustworthy right now. Pay attention to their last final grabs for power, because this transition of power is not going to be pretty. Pay attention to the fact that power is going to transition into sectors like tech, space, science. Make sure if you're a long-term investor, you're paying attention to these things, right? And then I'll just go ahead and pivot it, since I know we're going to wrap up here in about no later than 10 minutes. I want to just pivot it to another important point, as Shelby had pointed out, the eclipses and eclipse seasons, which really are just in alignment with an eclipse is when there's a sun, a new moon and a full moon that's happening in the sign that the nodes are in. Okay. So the eclipse seasons are Taurus and Scorpio seasons right now, because that's where the nodes are. We're in a Taurus North node, Scorpio South node. And I just want to focus on all the themes of Taurus North node. The North node takes energy and says, we need to develop this. We need to relook at all this. We need to look at our childish ways. We need to look at our immature ways around these themes. What does Taurus represent? Food, agriculture, land, money.
And what's happening in the world right now? Food shortages.
All of it.
Do you know, just a quick side note, I don't go to grocery stores. I have the groceries come to me. I use Instacart. Thank you, America, for showing me Instacart. And I order food and somebody shops for me. We text, and then she like brings everything over, right? And she just keeps bringing up the fact, she's like, there's no food. Like, this is like in Publix. She's like, the foods are running out. Like, this is somebody that grocery shops for a living. And she's like, things are running out. All of a sudden, we're seeing warehouses and fields and cows just being lit up in flames, and something's happened. And it's like these food shortages are happening. So just to tie in with what exactly you're saying, Kylie, it's coming. It's coming. The facts are there.
It's here, it's been here. And the question is, are we listening to the call? And if we pay attention to the map, which is why we want to teach you guys this skill set of looking at the stars and studying them, because that is the map. If we pay attention to the map, it's been telling us this was coming, and it tells us when it's over. It tells us that we were going through this leg of energy for evolution, and the next one to come is Aries. So 2023 in July, when the North Node enters Aries, cue rebellion, cue independence, cue the fact that we're already gearing up for the Great Resignation. Like, it's already happening. There's going to be a whole bunch of independent people. There's going to be a whole bunch of independent entities. There's going to be a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, because that is Aries energy. There's going to be a lot of pioneering newness in new areas, new innovative ways. This is the North Node energy for July 2023. And if we see that and we see the map, we can prepare and we can work with it. Right now, we've got Taurus. So again, like she said, agriculture, money, also the housing sector is totally getting shooken up right now. That's all Taurus themes. And I want to pass it to Corinne, just to wrap this call up and add in her 2 cents and beyond of what she sees with all this energy on the table that she wants to highlight for you all.
Awesome. Let's get into some charts. I want to show you all like straight away some of the things that Kylie and Shelby have just brought up and how we actually see that represented inside of, for example, Bitcoin. Why Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin is king, queen, whatever it is that you want to call it, right? And all of the money that flows into cryptocurrencies flows through Bitcoin. So that's why we really focus down on Bitcoin. And if you can just confirm for me that you can see my charts there.
Yep.
Yep, awesome. So for example, Kylie and Shelby brought up the fact that we're going to be seeing some solar eclipses coming towards the end of this year. So we have the solar eclipse at Scorpio, 24th of October. Everybody sign these dates, write them down, put them in your charts. And then lunar eclipse in Taurus. So that's on the 7th of November. Now, just to show you all an example, yes, we looked at the moon, but what does an eclipse mean? If we come back to some previous eclipses that we had this year, and here I'm looking at a 2-day chart. That's what I really like to look at my astrology on. I don't know if you ladies are the same, but I like the 2-day more like macro look.
Yeah, I would say never go under 1 day. Like once you get into the hour charts and stuff, you can't see as well with the moon phases. So,
yeah, awesome. So you can use this kind of have a bit more of a macro, the energies, the overall bigger movements and emotions. So let's look at, for example, when we had the solar eclipse. So new moon normally means highs before we come down towards a full moon. And this, we had a lunar eclipse in Scorpio here as well. I'm sure Kylie will back me up that Scorpio is a very intense energy. Same with Shelby. Shelby's a Scorpio, right? Your son's in Scorpio. So very like intense, in a good way, energy.
Especially with emotion, being water.
With
that was the lunar crash.
I was saying you're right. It's very intense with emotions, being water sign.
Yes. Yeah. And this was right around the lunar crash. We're going to have to do a whole session on what happened with lunar and how it was written all through the astrology, right, Kylie?
I have a TikTok.
Oh, there we go. Everybody go check out the TikTok, right? So we saw this big price just come down, and then again following through, we finished the full moon. We saw that low new moon energy pulling it up just a little bit, but we didn't see too much to continue through and follow down post these 2 eclipses. So that's what we saw happen in the past. And now we're seeing coming up next year, the end of this year, again, these 2. So this is how we can start to already plan in advance and use astrology to be like, okay, I am going to look at my technical analysis. I still do my technical analysis. I look at all of that. I look at price action, but then I factor in, what is going to be happening around this period due to the energies that are happening. You can see my charts all messy with all other sorts of things. I don't even want to go into Mars in retrograde and in Taurus and in Aries and all the other retrogrades that are coming that Shelby mentioned. But this is just an idea. Sorry?
I was going to say, we could do a whole nother call on just the retrogrades coming up in September.
We really should. We should.
Will.
But this is just to give you all an idea and a very introductory session and chat on how you can see astrology affect the financial markets and what our obviously passion is inside of the world of crypto. So I know that the chat, maybe I might just open up the chat. Please just put a number 8 in the chat if you did find this useful, if you got value out of it. If you're watching this on any of our various social media pages, please just drop the feedback there, any questions as well. We'd love to continue doing this. And as I always say, even in my Go Live sessions, in my sessions that I teach on our platform, I always say, ask the questions, because when we get the questions, then we know what people are after, what information people need, so that we can come back and continue to share that value. And if we don't know something, then we can research it. And I love to call it like a study group, right? Because like Kylie said at the start, we're constantly students. We're always learning, we're always growing. And that's the beautiful thing about this life. So Shelby and Kylie, if you want to drop in the chat your Instagrams, I'll drop mine as well. Please be careful, everybody that's watching this. I'm sure that even Shelby and Kylie, sometimes we unfortunately get fake profiles that impersonate us. We'll never ask you for money, for investments. So please make sure that you're following the correct Instagram handles. And I think that's it for today.
Yes.
This was fun.
Yeah. Everyone have a great rest of your day, and send me any questions, or Kylie or Corinne, any questions you have. We're here to help you guys.
I accidentally direct messaged Corinne. Let me put this information in here for everybody. So that was my website. If you guys want to do any bookings or check out the ebook for trade analysis with astrology, and then there's my Instagram. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, everybody. We look forward to the next call. Stay tuned, and we'll share it out on our various platforms. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you, Shelby.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.